What is happening, everybody? I'm the Max, and some time ago I made a video complaining about Luminar 4 and its marketing strategy. Now, that video was what you would call a spicy take, and as they do, it was extremely well received. Not a single person disagreed with me, except for everybody. Now, when that video was made, Luminar 4 actually hasn't come out yet, so I was speaking from the information that was available at the time. Now that it's actually been out for a while with a couple of updates, I actually went ahead and tried it for myself, and I gotta say, it's still not very good. But wait, before you go into the comments section to tell me what an idiot I am, let me explain myself. Now, before we get into the actual Luminar 4 part, let me address some of the points that people have made in response to the previous video. Point 1. Since you're obviously a hater, why don't you just go and use Lightroom? Because I don't like it. I like Luminar. I like Luminar 3 a lot. It's still my main editing tool. I still use it every day, and I'm really enjoying it. The reason I don't like Luminar 4 is because it takes away the one thing that made me switch from Lightroom to begin with. Flexibility. The reason Luminar 2018 even was attractive to me is because it allowed me to stack different things in different order. Lightroom and Luminar 4 gives you a fixed set of effects in a fixed order, which I cannot get behind after having used Luminar 3 for as long as I have, because a lot of my workflows include steps that require double stacking or rearranging of certain things. For example, I could use an HSL, then put a LUT below it, and then put another HSL below that. You can't do it in Lightroom, and you can't do it in Luminar 4. And that's the point I was making. I'm not just hating on Luminar. I'm disagreeing with the one specific change version 4 brought. Okay, point number 2. If it uses Apple's built-in graphics processing, then how come it works on Windows? I don't know how version 4 changed, but version 3 was historically really bad on Windows. It was lacking features, it was very slow, it was just not good software. And the staggering difference in how it performs on macOS versus how it performs on Windows can very well be explained by the Windows not having good built-in graphics processing, which developers could use. Point number 3. What about all those AI enhancement tools? Okay, let me explain this. There's no such thing as AI editing. What machine learning does for you is it segments the image. In plain English, it tells the developer, hey buddy, so you gave me this image, right? And I think that these pixels over here, that's where the face is. And then it's up to developer to figure out what to do with those pixels. All of the actual processing is always pre-baked, and if you don't believe me, you can take a look at this article where the CTO of Skylum, the company who makes Luminar, is talking about how the detection of areas is where machine learning is being used, and the actual processing is all pre-baked algorithms, which means that the AI fancy tools are basically automatic selection and a bunch of predetermined edits, which you shouldn't really use beyond 10-20%, because otherwise it's just gonna overkill whatever it is you're trying to do, because it wasn't designed for your image, right? They tried out the algorithms that they wrote on a couple of images that they had, but it won't work for every case. That's just the nature of it. And I'm gonna demonstrate it later, especially with all the face effects that they added recently. All right, point number 4. Your audio is a piece of garbage. Well, let me know if it's better now. Point number 5. I don't know, man, it does what I need it to do, and I think that's fine. Yeah, it does. That was never my point. I never said don't use Luminar. If the tool is right for you, just go ahead, pick up that tool and do your work, because in the end of the day, that's what tools are for. If you think Luminar 4 does the job for you, use it. If you think Capture One does the job for you, use that. That's the reason I'm stuck with Luminar 3, because it does the job for me, and I think it's an amazing tool. What I was talking about is the marketing that Skylum has been using for Luminar 4. I probably should have clarified that better, but hope it's clear now. But enough about the last video. This is a new video, so let's talk about the things that I found out when I was actually trying the new Luminar. Okay, so my 2 primary complaints about Luminar 4 come down to 2 things: the UI and the features. I really don't like the new UI, and I said it in the last video, and I'm saying it again, it's a very, very bad user interface. It's not thought through at all. For example, if I need to find an effect, right, in Luminar 3, I can go to the effect search, and I was like, okay, rays, and here are my sun rays, and I can look if that's the filter I'm looking for because it has a preview, and I can just use it from here. Now in Luminar 4, I have to browse through these freaking menus in these categories and hope and pray that this one is going to have the effect that I need and that it's actually the effect I'm looking for, because there are no previews anymore. And they keep adding more and more effects, which you can't find. Like, for example, I used to be able to find clarity. It was like a lonely filter in a category of its own. Can you tell me where clarity is anymore? Because I don't see it. Like, I swear, it used to be somewhere in one of these things, but it's not. You can't find it anymore, and there's no search, so. But UI is something you can get used to, right? That's not super important. What is important is the actual functionality of it. Now, a while ago, Skylum has told me in the comments of their announcement video that the presets will be deprecated in version 5, but will still be fully backwards compatible in version 4. So let's see if that's true. Let's go to one of the presets. I know, Evening Forest, because that's clearly what's happening here. And then let's go to Luminar 3 and find the same preset. And now I have the UIs lined up as close as I could so I can switch seamlessly and you can see the actual image. But this is what it looks like in Luminar 3, where I made the preset, and this is what it looks like in Luminar 4. Now, I don't know about you guys, but it doesn't really look backwards compatible to me, because what I'm seeing in Luminar 4 is different contrast, different colors, different everything. But maybe that's just a preset, right? Maybe it's just a bad preset. So let's find another one. And I'm just gonna get a completely random one. Let's go, I know, North Border, which is a ripoff of the North Borders editing style, which doesn't really work on daylight photos, but whatever. We're using it for illustration purposes. So let's go to Luminar 3, let's find a North Border preset. And now once again, Luminar 4 has different contrasts, different colors. It just looks different. Like, look at this blue here. This blue compared to this blue is very, very different. So it's a subtle difference, right? But sometimes it can just discard a lookup table. Sometimes it can just lose an entire adjustment. It's not backwards compatible. They were saying it is, but it's not. Now remember I was saying earlier that what machine learning actually does is segmentation, right? If you want to see the best example of it, you can go to the AI portrait enhancer and just turn up the face light, like all the way up. And you can see exactly what it's doing. You can basically see the exact edges of the face that is drawn. There's a bit of a spill outside because it has to smooth it over. And essentially what's happening here is it gives you, or the developer rather, this particular area, and the developer goes like, okay, so if I just bump the highlights, which is essentially a programmatic tone curve, then it looks like there's some light on the face. So we're gonna call it face light. Or if I take the bottom 30% of the pixels and I squeeze it together, we can call it Slim Face 2.0 technology. Right, and all of this stuff, it's not revolutionary. Your iPhone has it built in. If you take a photo on your iPhone with a built-in camera app and you set it as save to HEIC, what that file is going to have inside of it is a face matte, an eyes matte, a teeth matte, so all of the things that you can then enhance later in your editing process. iPhone just segments that for you by default. And again, Apple has done all of it. They have all the pre-trained models available for developers to use. And the thing is, it doesn't really work that well. Like, I couldn't get the skin enhancer and the portrait enhancer to behave in any sort of a reasonably decent way. So most of the time, you really just don't want to use these tools anyway. But let's try the much hyped sky replacement, right? So let's go to one of these photos and let's go to AI sky replacement and let's select Blue Sky 6, I don't know. Now, are you seeing the problem here? That's right, there is no depth of field on this sky. And you can't really do much about it because the defocus setting that they have here won't match the, like this was shot on a Zenit Helios 44, which is the swirly bokeh lens, and you can clearly tell that the bokeh here and the bokeh here are very, very different, and it's all just stupid digital. Let's try dramatic sunset, right? Let's do relight scene, like all the way, so it looks like it's an actual thing. It just doesn't look very good. If you have like a wide shot with like a landscape focused to infinity, right? This can work. But for anything other than that, if you have just the slightest, like if you have a slightly different lens than what they're simulating, or if you have just a non-standard condition where you might want to replace the sky, you really can't rely on this thing. And of course, the biggest problem is the effect order. For example, if I want this lookup table to go before the dramatic filter, sucks to be me. Now, in contrast, if I go here and I select my lookup table, make it a Kodak Chrome 100%, and then I want to put it before the dramatic filter, well, all I need to do is just drag it above the dramatic filter, and holy shit, it works. This is the one thing keeping me on Luminar 3, is the ability to just do this, because I need to do it a lot, and as far as I know, this is the only tool that really does it this well. So the conclusion is, if you like Luminar 4, if it does the job for you, if it fits in your workflow, by all means, use it. I'm not telling you not to use it. What I am telling you is that a lot of the marketing around it isn't exactly accurate. For example, the AI sky replacement, right? When you use a synthetically prepared image that you know is gonna work because it has the exact things, it has the exact set of things that the sky replacement needs to work properly, sure, it's gonna look great. However, it has a lot of problems. Like, same goes for the portrait enhancers, for the skin enhancer, all of these tools, all of the machine learning crap. It's all very synthetic. It will not work for every use case. It will probably not work for your use case. And when people are saying like it works for everything, that's what I have a problem with. And hopefully that clarifies my position on this whole thing. I personally will keep using Luminar 3 until something better comes along, but again, there is nothing wrong with using the tool that you think works best for you. See ya.